Dave Ramsey has helped millions of people get out of debt. We know whether it is Financial Peace University or his books or even the comment section just on my pages on YouTube, Threads, and everywhere in between, there are people absolutely testifying to the power of his financial wisdom. But the power of math in a lot of circumstances, and even through his own words at times, if we have analyzed this, does not actually make sense. But in totality, has he done more harm than good, especially in this economy and moving forward? Does his advice still apply and does it still work? Let's go ahead and break it down. It is undeniable that Dave has been effective at disseminating information when it comes to finances. He has reached, as I mentioned, millions of people, but McDonald's has also fed millions of people. It does not mean that the food was good or healthy. And in this case, that's the question I am looking to answer. Has the information that he has given good and healthy for the people that have been consuming it for all of these years? Because yes, I know he has gotten people out of debt. Getting out of debt is generally a good thing, but at what cost when we consider the math? So those are the things that we are going to consider as we go throughout these 3 points. So stick with me here, grab a pen and pad, and perhaps consider doing some of the math with me. First, let's start off with the elephant in the room. Dave Ramsey wants you to get out of debt. And I don't disagree with that. I too want you to be debt-free. Where we disagree though is this. I do not believe that being debt-free is the ultimate #1 ladder of the measurement of wealth. Babies are debt-free though they are not wealthy, right? I can be debt-free and still broke because I cannot retire. I will be on a treadmill working every day of my life because I still have bills, right? I can have $100,000, be debt-free, and I can only quit my job but for so long, right? Because of those expenses. There is a medium here. And the other thing is, I am all for being debt-free, but at what cost? Is it pausing my 401k? Is it renegotiating my interest rates? Or is it like Dave Ramsey, cutting these things off immediately to have the, what does he call it, gazelle intensity to pay it off? There are some times where I think that works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm much more nuanced, but I'm not anti-paying off your debt. So one example, we've done a whole breakdown on that video here. His math is off. Right, so he did a video where he told this lady not to invest money in her 401k. This isn't the only time this has happened. Yahoo Finance has covered it. Several other outlines have covered similar situations where he has come out and said, hey, do not invest money in your 401k. You should go ahead and just pay off debt. Those decisions are costly. And in his mind, he can say, or he has said rather, don't do that. Just try and pay off all your debt in 6 months. But, and I did the math in that video, go and watch it right after this. The math did not make sense when you accounted for how long it would have taken her to pay off the debt, and there was no way for her to do it within the amount of time that he specified. It was like an impossible situation. Like the debt was $30,000 and her not putting money in her 401k was only saving her 15. That means you're gonna take 2 years to pay it off. Like the math just did not matter at the time. Go back and get the exact numbers from the video if you want exact specificity. But that's the issue here. Selling out to pay all the debt doesn't make sense, especially, and here's my point here, especially when there may, keyword may, be alternatives. My suggestion is there a 0% transfer that you can move it over to? That's one. Show people on the screen exactly how you can do that. 2, can you lower the interest rate? 3, can you just bring down the 401k contribution? Instead of doing 10%, can you do 5? So you are still getting the match and putting more towards a credit card bill all at the same time, as opposed to let me not contribute and miss out on what the stock market did in 2025. Miss out on what the stock market is doing currently in 2026, and we'll see what happens at the end of the year. I don't know where the stock market is going to be by the end of the year. Those things are costly. That does not make a ton of sense. That is dangerous. That's extremely dangerous. There's someone in the comments said, well, debt is dangerous too. Yeah, it can be, but let me tell you this, debt is negotiable. I just showed you 2 ways in which debt can be negotiated, and a 3rd way where you can still get the best of both worlds, contribute to investing, and still pay more on the debt. What are we doing here? Why do we have to take the most extreme option when there are others on the table that can still get you debt freedom and still invest at the exact same time. Especially someone who's in their 50s who I would prefer, if I am their advisor, I don't want to have that person working into their 70s because they took 3 or 4 or 5 years to invest as opposed to doing both at the same time. Then we go to the retirement advice piece of this. Again, the math does not add up, even though people in the comments, they disagree. Okay, I'm not going to rehash the entire thing. I believe we've covered this in a small segment in a separate video, but he argues that the stock market makes 12, you can withdraw 8% because of inflation being roughly 4. Here's the thing. That is not what the stock market typically returns. The stock market after inflation returns 7%. That is the actual average. That's the actual long-term average of the stock market after inflation is 7%, not 8. Now, if you are withdrawing 8, even though the stock market is making 7 after inflation, you lose what? 1%. Here's the thing, all right? I can put a visual here so that people get it. The thing is, you will likely run out of money in 19 years, not 99 years. For whatever reason, people in the comments assume that you're gonna just run out in 99 years. What people miss here, and this is why I would consider some of his advice dangerous, is this. Your principal continues to drop. That is the problem. And as your principal drops, because somebody's gonna say, well, I don't plan on passing on money to my kids. That's your prerogative. The issue though is you running out of money in a time where you can't afford to. That's what I'm concerned about. Because if your living standard right now is you need $60,000 to live, you're retired at $60,000, the next year you start withdrawing is 59, and then it's 50. And as you continue to withdraw, the principal that you had continues to shrink. So 8% of $1 million is not what 8% is on 800,000 or 700,000 as the years continue to go. Your retirement gets smaller, your bills do not. In fact, the bills are likely to increase just based on general inflation, healthcare costs, or anything else. That is the issue. Now the solution, most people would argue that the 4% rule is sufficient. There are pros and cons, that's a whole separate video. And some people say, well, 4% is enough. Also, pros and cons, but I can tell you this, withdrawing more than what you make, that usually goes against what Dave Ramsey preaches. You can't really argue with what the math says here. Now, there is some criticism, which moves us into the third point by saying, well, this actually might work if you have 100% your entire portfolio invested in stocks. You might be right. You might be right. Except there's 2 issues. The first one is, and this is I would dare somebody to fight me on this one. You can check this out on his website and even in his books, because yes, I read those too. The thing is, he suggested you should invest in actively managed mutual funds, which are known to be more expensive, sometimes charging 5.75% just to get in. So that means you invest $100 up front. That usually means 5.75% off the top going to the mutual fund company. And the interesting thing is, as a financial planner, that's the first thing I look at when a client comes to me and say, hey, look, these are the most expensive funds that you have. We might want to switch these to things that are less expensive. He wants you to go for the most active funds. Not only do they tend to underperform the regular cheap index funds, the data is here. Okay, I ain't gonna argue that. The data is there. And again, they are more expensive. So he's pushing you, or having you lean towards more expensive funds and saying that you should be 100% in stock even as you are nearing retirement. Now, yeah, the potential for you to make more money, that is there. I can't argue that. But also the risk is there. People who are in their 60s and 70s being 100% in stock, what happens if the market falls and you are still withdrawing? That is the concern here. Remember what happened to the markets earlier this year. As the market fell early and people panicked, if you are withdrawing 8% when the market is down, that's called a sequence of return risk. When the market falls, can severely hurt how long your retirement lasts. I'm not sure if that is the absolute best thing, because not everybody knows how much you should have in cash and for how many years you should have cash aside versus how much should be invested. I'm not sure if that is the safest thing. And look at the things that I mentioned, right? Go back and replay it if you have to. One of these was about debt. The other 2 were about investing. And that is my key thing here. We don't want to be so focused on investing that we hurt the other pieces of our finances and the other pieces of our financial plan. And in total, I think that his advice might actually be quite dangerous when you look at the total financial picture, because yes, we want to be debt free, but that's not the only thing that is good about finances, right? That's not the only. If I said, hey, your credit score should be 850, and that's the only thing you need to look at, you would say, well, what about budgeting? What about home ownership? Well, there are a lot of other things that you should be worried about. And I wonder if he's so focused on debt that he's not worried about investing, looking at fees, diversification, retirement planning, risk. And I think that does more harm than good, because there are a lot of people, and I've seen these comments online, I talk to these people unlike others, I talk with these people, I look at their finances and help them to fix what Dave Ramsey has done, that they get out of debt. That part is right, but after 5 or 6 or 7 years, I realized, wait a minute, I was not investing during that time, and now I have to catch up. Now I have to like do all these other things, and I'm behind the 8 ball, and I don't have the time or the income that I thought I would have because I'm debt free, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the way that the books intended or the TV show intended. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, but I'm only showing you the math, the stats, and the experiences that I have seen. If you like this video, you definitely want to check out these videos next.